Hey YouTube, this morning I wanted to take a few minutes and just take you through all the sources of income I've created, the things I work on, and kind of talking about the big three that I see it regards to investments and jobs and things like that. One is the effect on your net worth, the other one's your effect on the profit that you have, and the third one is cash flow. And each business can be different in those things, and I think to be successful you need all three. Let's get right into it. So, the first business I'll talk about is area is sales. Sales, I've got basically three different areas. Mobile Plus that I run directly. That sells on eBay, Amazon, and Poshmark some. A partnership, Team Ventures, that I am probably considered just an investor in. I have some say in strategic decisions, but that has the local store, eBay, Sideline Swap, and Amazon, and then some closeouts I do through a partner I have, and those sell mostly on eBay and Amazon. And I would say, from a standpoint of net worth, this this company, Mobile Plus, really isn't something having to create a net worth. It's not going to have a lasting value. I'm not going to sell it to an entrepreneur. I'm just having it to create some profit. So I would say this business right here is focused 100% on profit. 0% on the other ones. Cash flow, really doesn't give me a lot of cash flow besides the profit, because I put in, a certain amount every month and I get out a certain amount every month. Now, this partnership is really it's a couple of years old, but because it's an enclosed LLC with a contribution that I made to the company, I'm not sure of how it's going to work out. It's kind of an experiment from that standpoint. But I doubt it's going to be cash flow. I think it's more going to be in this range, but I'm not sure yet. The closeouts, definitely, probably, I'm going to say 75% cash flow. Every month, I get an amount of money in, and then I have the option to take that money and invest in new closeouts or to not. And so this cash flow is pretty significant when you compare it to a different business that has needs of cash flow, if that makes sense. And we'll talk about that later. So I would say probably maybe small amount of profit and maybe some residual value there because I'm not running it. Now let's get down to here. Premium real estate and development. Three different areas I have. Rogers is the main place I have houses. I have those managed under kind of a partner type agreement, and also professionally managed. Two different situations, two different learnings, two different types of issues to deal with, and then I also have Houses in Lee Summit, which is kind of a play in learning how to manage rentals remotely. I have a partner there I work with. Gets paid based on how much I'm making, things like that. And I would say from this standpoint, this is really maybe 75% a net worth play, if that makes sense. Houses, you own them, they go up in value. There's loans against them. The loans then go down in value as you pay them off and as inflation increases. That's really a long-term net worth play. From a cash flow standpoint, I really don't play the cash flow part. Profit maybe 25% play, so 75 here, 25 here. And probably the same across most of them. Traditional tax advantage accounts, the 401k, the Roth IRA, the education IRA, the HSA. I have health savings account, and some UTMAs for the kids. I said these are primarily today a net worth play. 100% net worth increase. They're not giving me any money, things like that. Now, eventually, I would say I will shift those to being maybe 75% here and 25% a play to give me cash flow. Maybe in a retirement type scenario. Accounts are fine, but they have traditional investments in them. So, you're going to play 8 to 10%. You can't do any kind of leverage on them. You're not going to get a 35% return year over year most of the time. You really have just no advantage to knowledge in these accounts. These are just kind of rolling in the market. Walmart stock is this probably similar thing, although I would say I'm looking for maybe 50% profit, 50% cash flow down here. So I might create more of these in the future. And we can talk about the above a little bit later. Crypto. Crypto's been a new thing, and because it's new, it's hard to determine what the percentages are going to look like. What does your growth look like over time? If I look out 5 years, what are my growth plays? What is my cash flow? What is my profit? So I would say, crypto is probably, at least in this one, is maybe 25%. 25% net worth increases. I would have said more before, but really not happening that much. Well, maybe I'll change it to 50. But those are on these, and I have GUSD, USDC, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and this is more, I would say, of a profit play. I want to get the profit on the payouts and things, and then be able to use that to kind of live on, or provide a security for me. And then these direct things, Solana staking, those things, Marinade, Bobcat Miner are definitely probably 100% profit type play. I don't see a long term that I'm going to be into those things and selling it to something else. So if you want to picture the difference between a net worth play and a profit play, the primary difference is that when you go to sell, for instance, this Mobile Plus business, okay, and I've been there when a lot of businesses close because of the closeout business. Most of the time, nobody buys it from you. There's nobody there. Most of the time, what happens is you're running this business, you're making a good profit, and then somebody dies, somebody gets sick, and they want to sell it. And what they sell it for is they sell it for a percent of inventory, so 10-15% of inventory retail value, or maybe a third of what they bought it for. And so that means this really has no residual value, and you're not getting anything that way. So if you're building this sales business for some kind of sale later, doesn't work that way. This partnership, not sure. I mean, this is a small piece of what I have total, and so it's being run by a partner. I have an investor. I'm the investor. So what does that look like long term? Does it have a residual value? I don't know. But overall, I kind of count on the sales business to be maybe probably 0% net worth play, and maybe 50% profit and 50% cash flow. And the difference between profit and cash flow is profit is money you make through transactions, okay? But depending on the business, it doesn't necessarily put anything in your pocket. And so there might not be anything that you have to invest in something else or to spend to support your family from profit itself. But profit is a great way to basically hedge your bets on other things. So I'll give you an example. Let's say I'm making $2,000 a month on this sales business, right? And I come down here crypto and I'm thinking, okay, how much can I put into crypto and leverage that investment? And I think, okay, if I do that, I could lose $2,000 a month. Well, that $2,000 a month in profit can cover this loss, okay? Because this loss is I'm putting in the money, and then I'm losing part of that money, but I didn't put any more in. And so that's interesting. Now, this one is probably 75%. I would say overall, it's going to end up being like 70, maybe 50% net worth, maybe 25% profit, 25% cash flow. So you could cover some losses from other business ventures that you have with real estate, but really it's a net worth play. As your net worth grows, you have more access to capital, and these two things are trailing factors. Now, you get to traditional investment, and I would say they're going to end up basically the same as the real estate is when I go to pull on those or use those to create money for investments. They aren't leverageable, but all three of those they'd eventually create. Now, when you're putting it in there, it doesn't give you any money to invest, and it doesn't give you any profit to invest. So you can't go take your traditional tax advantage accounts and say these investments are going to help me to drive my crypto investment because you're going to give me cash, because they aren't. So an investment like this does not drive other investments, and that's what you're looking for, is some kind of cascading effect. Now, real estate gives you tremendous access to money. So when I started with these tax advantage accounts, and this account then allowed me to drive the real estate, okay? And then the real estate allowed me to drive the sales business, and then both of these here allowed me to drive crypto. So right now I'm driving crypto off of sales business and real estate, if that makes sense. So, and I don't drive it forever, I just drive it for a period of time to get to maybe a capital allocation I want in it, or a number of profit. And so I'd say overall here, I'm probably looking at more a third of each, I would say. Some cash flow, some profit, some net worth. And the reason it probably turns out very similar in the three aspects is because you've got, for instance, USDC and GUSDC that really just drive your profit. I mean, they aren't long-term investment plays. You're going to put your $50,000 in. You're going to take $50,000 out. You're going to get the money every month, and that money is actually profit and cash flow. But you also have, Celsius investments in Ethereum and Bitcoin that I would say Bitcoin is more heavily weighed towards net worth. Ethereum is probably equal to each of these. And so at a high level, when you're making money, when you're growing, you're probably more geared towards net worth first, and profit second, and cash flow third. So let me give you an example. A house is worth $200,000, let's say, to me. I value it the way I do it, which I show you in videos, and I buy it for $150,000. Well, instantly, I've got a $50,000 bump in my net worth, okay? And the next year it bumps my net worth, the next year, and the next year, next year, okay? Now, do I make profit? Well, if you look at the house and I size it up and I say, here's the expenses I project on the house, and here's the income off of the house after fees and things, then I probably make profit. And let's say I make profit of $3,000 a year on that investment. Then when you go to the cash flow side, now you have a principal payment down on that house. So the house was $150, and let's say you borrowed $150 on it, and you have a 20-year amortization loan. That means that you're going to start maybe paying off $10,000 a year, let's say $12,000 a year, to make the things even. And so that's an additional $1,000 coming out of your pocket, and you're only making $300 in profit. So at those ratios, you may have a negative cash flow on that investment. And so when you look at it, you say, is it as good as an investment? Well, depends on what you're looking for. Are you looking for the $50,000 up front and the bump in net worth every year, or are you looking for money in your pocket? And so I have always looked for and prioritized net worth as number one. And the primary thing that I'm looking for is increasing net worth over time. And so I will take a house at negative cash flow if the house is building net worth every single year. And a little profit to offset risks, but that profit may not be paid to me for the first maybe 2 or 3 years until rents catch up, market increases. Some of the effects of net worth will be felt in profit and cash flow, but they might be felt over time, not up front. They may hit in the year number 3, and so you may have 3 years where you're putting $200 a month into this investment. And so the way I look at that is, okay, I'm putting $150,000 in this, but I'm borrowing it, so I'm putting 0 in. So what I'm really putting in is, $2,400 a year in cash flow for the next 3 years. So we'll say $9,000 I'm going to put into this house, and I've got to have enough profit from this business, for other businesses, to make sure I can cover any kind of interest rate risks or risks on things breaking or things like that. And that's not to say to cover the expense, but just cover the risk. And so maybe, let's say there's a risk of a $5,000 expense, and the risk is 50-50. Well, that's a $2,500 cost directly based on that risk, and I have to be able to cover that somewhere. And then lastly, can I cover the $3,000 a year in cash flow, and where would I cover that? So as you can see, based on percentages, the sales business is great from a cash flow standpoint because it throws out, especially closeouts, because most every month I'm getting X check. And from a profit standpoint, this direct business is great. And then you have, from a net worth standpoint, you're building back here in real estate and the more balanced kind of a crypto play. And so I think the crypto play, the reason I view it this way is because crypto is really not one thing. It could be interest in a company. It could be a loan you're doing. It could be an investment in a new technology, but they call it crypto. And so they're really viewing it the same, but I view them drastically different. Hope this was useful for you. It definitely can help you understand where to start, how one thing can drive another, how to make decisions based on what you want. I will tell you one of the main things that I do to be able to get good people to work with me is I generally give up the cash flow side. People are really looking for things that make their daily life better, put money in their pocket, put food on their table. And for me, that's just not that important. And so when I'm doing a partnership, generally the person is looking for the cash flow. I'm looking for the net worth. And we're splitting the profit, if that's how you want to view it. And so there's some risk coverage that I have due to the profit. There's the net worth growth that I generally completely get. And then there's the cash flow point that they definitely get on their side, and I'm probably getting a negative cash flow. And you have to set up your finances from the beginning so that, maybe your job is the source of your cash flow. And it can't be the source of your cash flow if you're spending all the money. But if you're spending half, you're putting half aside, you're starting to build these things up to cover some of your bases. You start to build some kind of traditional account, Then you're going to use this to drive your real estate. And then you're going to use these real estate aspects to help drive your next business that might have a need for capital, but is going to produce for you, profit and cash flow that then makes, the payments or whatever on real estate easier. So let me give you an example specifically. Let's say your real estate payment is $5,000 a month, right? And your closeouts are giving you $5,000 a month. Now, that's a return of, what you bought for the materials and the materials. But for a certain month, it's still $5,000. So if your real estate has a bunch of issues, for instance, you get this $5,000, you have coverage on this real estate payments without real estate being in a good situation. So maybe you have a situation where one area is more in trouble. Maybe the real estate market's down. Well, everybody who's in real estate only now has this problem, and their problem is that their revenues are down, their profits are down, their net worths are off, and everything's just going bad in real estate. But that's a great time to invest in real estate. So if you have this sales business running, right, well, then you can leverage that to put money back in real estate at that particular time, because it's a better way to allocate your capital. Alternatively, let's say real estate's going like gangbusters, but it's 2020 or 2000, whatever the recessions are happening, and nobody's buying these closeouts. Well, I'm still buying because some of my source of income didn't change at all. So now I have capital and money coming in when nobody else in the business I'm in does. And so I kind of use the different areas and different strengths of the businesses, to kind of build each other up some. And the main thing I will tell you is, as you get more access to capital, profits, and cash flow, the decisions that you make with those things become more and more important. If you make bad decisions, this whole pie will come down. Let's say you go and you borrow money against real estate to buy yourself a big $1 million car or something like that. Well, that real estate may be great, but without $1 million, it may be just a tank. It may just be something ready to crash, and you may not see it until you get into a bad market and things happen. I hope you learned a lot today. Let me know in the comments what you think, what I can cover, anything I can help you with, and just like and subscribe the video, and I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.